In the last chapter, chapter 167, Rama said, just as the memory is at the root of the perception in both the waking and the dream states, it is memory alone that gives rise to the feeling that the external objects are real. We've got this belief in an external world, and this belief is based on memory, because this thing seems to be there each time we go to sleep and we wake up. There it is. We remember it from before. We remember our bedroom. Yes, this is the bedroom I was in last night. When we wake up in a different bedroom, it takes a little bit longer to assimilate the situation. But if you're having a dream and you're waking up, you'll find yourself in your dream bedroom. But you don't think of it as your dream bedroom. It's your old bedroom. It's the one you've always woken up in, even though it's completely different to the bedroom that you wake up in your waking state. So the dream comes with these memories. The dream comes with these memories, and that gives us the feeling that all this must be real. And tied up with memory is the notion of time. We've got this idea of the arrow of time moving irrevocably from the past to the future. But this is just a notion. There's no such thing as time, any more than there's any such thing as space. I mean, what's space? Space is nothing. I can measure this nothing. Look, here's 12 inches of space. What am I measuring? I'm not measuring anything. And yet, you'll quite happily accept this 12 inches as something real. The only reality is the measure. If there's anything here, it's just the measure, isn't it, of 12 inches. But there's nothing that's being measured as 12 inches. There's only the 12 inches. There's only the measure itself. Space is nothing. And yet, we take it as something, don't we? But what are we measuring? The same with time. We can create these mechanisms. Mechanism of clockwork, ticking onwards. And we say it's measuring something. It's something that we've created. We created this measure. We created these measures. And we use them to define our reality of space and time. This is consciousness. If there's any space, there's only the measure. If there's any time, there's only the clock. The reality is the measure. And we can say that consciousness is the measure of all things. It's the measure of all things. This is consciousness. This is the reality. The reality is only the measure. And so we can ask questions. We ask questions about time, like, can time be reversed? Can we go backwards in time? And these are wonderful questions to ask. They're rather like asking questions like, why do dragons have wings? Why does the unicorn have a horn? We can create some wonderful, rich stories about this. And this is what it is. They're stories, they're dreams, they're imagination. A lot of this I find summed up in Salvador Dali's painting from 1931 called The Persistence of Memory. He started drawing the cliffs at the port in Spain where he lived, and he was having a bit of a creative problem. He didn't know how to finish the painting. Apparently he'd also been eating some Camembert cheese, which is a soft cheese, and he had a headache. Whether this is true or not, it's one way of looking at the painting. Where the cheese, the headache, and his creative problem the cause of the painting. If you're wanting to be scientific, the cause of the painting is the application of coloured pigments to canvas. But that tells us nothing. That's like the scientists saying that we're made up of hydrogen atoms. Everything is made up of hydrogen atoms. This tells us absolutely nothing. So we want to enter into it. So let's enter into it. Can we say that the cause of the painting was the Camembert cheese, the creative challenge, and the headache? We could say it was the cause, but only in the sense that there's an association. It's like the association of the crow alighting on the coconut palm and at the same time the coconut falling off. This association, this is our reality. It's one of creating associations. It's how dreams work. Dreams flow through a free association of one dream with the next. And here we have in the centre of this painting a sleeping entity. It looks quite grotesque. It's almost like an aborted fetus. It's vulnerable and yet untouched, unconcerned, as if in deep sleep. Perhaps this is Brahman, the absolute consciousness, and it's draping itself in notions of time. At the periphery of this picture, the lower left, there's a fairly solid looking clock, a fairly solid looking watch covered in ants. Ants are supposed to have a certain symbolism in Dali's work of decay or of female genitalia. But I think it's more obvious than that. When we have a rigid sense of time, we become like ants, moving like clockwork. This is not how we really experience time. Time is flexible. It's purely subjective, not objective. We have no experience of time in this moment. And we can talk about the past and the future, but these are completely separate things. If we start thinking about the past, this is to do with things that happened in the past, then our sense of time, of some kind of strict linearity, dissolves. It's all a bit of a muddle. It's all a bit flaccid, like Dali's floppy clocks. And this is what we base our reality on. We base our reality on memory. We base our reality on memory. We base our belief in an external world on these floppy clocks, this floppy sense of time which exists as memory. How could we portray the future? Well, they're like clocks which don't even exist yet. The sense of future time is quite different to the sense of past time, isn't it? The sense of past time. It's almost like they're ghostly clocks. They haven't yet coalesced. They haven't yet come into existence. They haven't yet draped their floppy bodies, their floppy clock faces over our existence in the form of memories. But it all doesn't matter, because if we can enter into this sleeping monster in the middle, that's the reality. It's the reality of being untouched by notions of time, untouched by the persistence of memories.